forgotten highway. The first time Kevin saw the sign, it looked so ordinary that he almost drove past it without noticing. Exit 0. The paint on the metal was faded, nearly erased by time. He slowed down instinctively, staring at the strange marker. Highways didn't have an exit 0. That didn't even make sense. Maybe he was tired, maybe the long drive had blurred his vision, but the numbers were clear. A perfect white 0 on a green background. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, and glanced back at the road. The sun was setting behind him, the horizon melting into bruised colors of orange and violet. His hands gripped the wheel tighter as unease settled into his chest. The exit ramp stretched into the dark woods, an empty strip of asphalt with weeds curling up from the cracks. Against his better judgment, Kevin flicked the blinker and turned. His tires crunched gravel as the world around him shifted into silence. The forest swallowed the road whole. The highway behind him vanished in the rearview mirror, as if it had never existed at all. At first, he told himself it was nothing, just an old forgotten road, maybe a shortcut that never got used. But the deeper he drove, the stranger it felt. There were no signs, no lights, no sound of other cars, only the hum of his engine and the weight of isolation pressing down on him. A pale figure appeared on the shoulder. Kevin slammed the brakes, his chest lurching against the seatbelt. For a heartbeat, he thought it was a deer, or maybe a lost hiker. But when the headlights lit it up, he realized it wasn't either. The figure was tall and thin, skin washed out like old paper. It stood barefoot, head tilted, staring at him with eyes that were too dark, too empty. Kevin's pulse hammered in his ears. He fumbled for the gear shift, ready to throw the car in reverse when the figure smiled. Not a human smile. Too wide, too sharp. The road stretched endlessly behind it, blacker than night. Kevin pressed the gas. The figure didn't move as the car surged forward. For a second, it vanished into shadow. Then it was gone as if it had never been there at all. Kevin's knuckles were white against the wheel. His breathing came fast, ragged, the sound loud in the suffocating silence of the car. He turned up the radio, desperate for noise, but static poured out, sharp and broken. Then, beneath the static, came whispers. Not one voice, but many. Layered, overlapping, speaking words he couldn't understand. He twisted the dial, but the whispers grew louder, clearer. His heart pounded as he swore he heard his own name in the chorus. Kevin. His foot hit the brake, slamming the car to a stop in the middle of the road. His headlights illuminated another figure. Then another, and another. Dozens of them. Pale, empty-eyed, standing silently in the road ahead, all facing him. Each of their faces almost identical, like photocopies of one another. Kevin's breath fogged the windshield as the figures began to step forward. Their bare feet made no sound, but the air seemed to vibrate with the weight of their presence. He slammed the car into reverse, tires screeching against the broken pavement. The figures didn't chase him. They didn't need to. Their hollow eyes followed, and the whispers on the radio rose to a deafening chant. He drove blind into the dark, headlights cutting through endless asphalt. But no matter how far he went, the pale figures appeared again, waiting ahead as if the road had looped back on itself. Kevin's panic spiraled. His hands shook, his chest burned with each breath. He didn't notice when the forest thinned, when the road opened into a wide stretch of cracked concrete lined with decaying streetlights. He only noticed the sign at the edge of his headlights. Welcome to Exit 0. The letters were scratched into rusted metal, dripping with something that looked disturbingly like old blood. Kevin's voice cracked as he whispered to himself, "What the hell is this place?" A movement in the mirror made his blood run cold. Someone was sitting in the back seat. He didn't turn around. Couldn't. His hands trembled against the wheel as the figure leaned forward, its breath ice cold against his neck. And then, in his own voice, it whispered, "You shouldn't have come here." Kevin's body froze, every instinct screaming at him not to look in the mirror. His breath fogged against the glass, shallow and uneven. The figure in the back seat didn't move. It just lingered in the shadow, its outline too familiar, too wrong. Finally, with a trembling hand, Kevin flicked the dome light on. The seat was empty. Kevin's heart pounded against his ribs as he shut the light off. His eyes darted to the road ahead, but his mind kept circling back to the voice that had spoken in perfect mimicry of his own. He gripped the wheel tighter, whispering to himself, "It's not real. Just keep driving. Just get out of here." But deep down he knew he wasn't leaving. The exit had closed behind him. The road stretched on, endless and unforgiving. The pale figures had vanished, replaced now by scattered remnants of what looked like a town. Dilapidated gas stations, their pumps rusted and broken. Neon signs that flickered half-dead slogans, "Eat here, rest here, stay forever." Kevin slowed, headlights washing over a motel sign, bent at a sharp angle. The building itself was skeletal, windows shattered, curtains shredded like old wounds. Yet as he pulled into the lot, a warm glow spilled from the office window. Every fiber in his body told him not to go inside. But his gas tank was nearly empty, and the hunger of exhaustion gnawed at him. He stepped out of the car, gravel crunching underfoot. The air here was different, thicker, weighted, as though the atmosphere itself was watching him. The motel door creaked open before he touched it. A woman stood inside the office, or at least, she looked like a woman. Her skin was waxy, too smooth, her hair stiff like a mannequin's. Her smile stretched wide, frozen in place. "Welcome to Exit 0, she said, voice mechanical, rehearsed. "We've been waiting for you." Kevin's throat went dry. "I just need gas. A way back to the highway." The woman tilted her head, the sound of bones snapping echoing faintly. Her eyes never blinked. "There is no highway. Only here. You belong to us now." Kevin stumbled back, his heel catching on a loose board. The lights in the office flickered, and in that strobe of failing electricity, the woman's face split. The skin peeled back like paper burning, revealing rows of teeth where cheeks should be. Kevin bolted for the car. His keys rattled, hands fumbling, heart jackhammering against his ribs. He shoved them into the ignition just as the motel door burst open, spilling shadows across the lot. Figures poured out. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Pale, silent, identical. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark as they shuffled closer, surrounding him. Kevin's engine roared to life, and he floored it, the car fishtailing as he tore out of the lot. The figures didn't chase, but he could feel them watching, pressing into his skull like invisible claws. The road ahead warped. Buildings shifted, melting into new shapes as though the town itself was breathing. Kevin blinked and the gas station reappeared, exactly where it had been minutes ago. He slammed the wheel to the left, only to find himself facing the motel again. Exit 0 wasn't a place. It was a loop. The radio hissed suddenly, then snapped into clarity. Kevin's own voice spoke through the speakers. Turn around before it's too late." His blood went cold. He looked at the dial, but it hadn't moved. Static bled into the voice, but the words kept repeating, faster, more frantic. Turn around, turn around, turn around." Kevin screamed and punched the radio, sparks bursting as the sound cut out. Silence fell again, heavy and suffocating. He drove with no destination, every landmark repeating, every mile bleeding into the next. The figures followed from a distance, always there when he stopped, always waiting when he turned. His sanity frayed with each passing moment, until he wasn't sure if the road was endless or if he had simply been here forever. And then he saw it. A church. The structure loomed at the end of the street, its steeple broken, its cross hanging upside down. Candles flickered in every shattered window, their flames unnaturally steady despite the wind. Kevin's car rolled to a stop without his foot touching the brake. His hands moved against his will, shutting the engine off, opening the door. His body obeyed, even as his mind screamed. The church doors yawned open, and inside, a congregation waited. Dozens of pale figures knelt in perfect silence, their heads bowed. At the altar a man stood, tall, gaunt, wearing robes stitched from shadows. When he lifted his face, Kevin's heart stopped. It was his own face. "Welcome home," the doppelganger said, voice echoing like a choir of whispers. "You finally come back to where you belong." Kevin's knees buckled as the congregation rose, dozens of identical faces turning to him, each one wearing his features. Rows upon rows of Kevins, staring with hollow devotion. The figure at the altar stretched his arms wide, shadows spilling from his fingertips like smoke. "You are not the visitor," the echo said. "You are the offering." The candles blew out all at once, and Kevin's scream was swallowed by the dark. The darkness inside the church wasn't empty, it was alive. Kevin felt it crawl across his skin like cold hands, dragging him forward even though he fought with everything he had. His voice ripped through the void, but his screams died before they left his throat. When the candles flared back to life, he was no longer standing at the entrance. He was kneeling at the altar. Before him towered the robed doppelganger, Kevin's own face stretched into a grotesque smile. The congregation of endless Kevins chanted in unison, their voices a sick harmony that made his bones vibrate. "You've driven long enough," the copy intoned. "The road has chosen, it demands a keeper." Kevin's heart slammed against his ribs. "I don't belong here. I never wanted this. I just took a wrong turn." The copy leaned closer, their identical eyes boring into him. "No one takes a wrong turn. The road calls who it needs." Kevin's mind fractured. He remembered the stories his grandmother once told him, whispered bedtime tales about cursed roads where travelers disappeared without a trace. He had laughed then, dismissing them as folk legends. But now, in this suffocating church, he realized the legends weren't stories. They were warnings. The figures closed in, their identical faces reflecting his terror. Their chanting grew louder until the walls themselves shuddered. Kevin clutched his ears, but the sound drilled straight into his skull. Suddenly silence. The copy raised a hand and the congregation froze. He placed his palm on Kevin's forehead and the world split apart. Kevin wasn't in the church anymore. He was outside, standing in the middle of the highway. Only this time he wasn't alone. Hundreds of travelers lined the road. Families, truckers, wanderers, all staring blankly ahead. Their bodies were motionless, but their eyes screamed. They were trapped, prisoners of the asphalt. The highway stretched into infinity, its surface rippling like a living thing. Kevin realized the awful truth. The road didn't just swallow people. It absorbed them. Their souls became part of it, their despair fueling its endless hunger. And now it wanted him. He staggered back, but the pavement clung to his shoes like tar. His car appeared on the shoulder, headlights glowing weakly. Hope surged. If he could just make it inside, maybe he could escape. He ran. The car door opened on its own, keys already in the ignition. Kevin dove in, slammed it shut, and jammed his foot on the gas. The tires screeched, smoke curling upward, and for the first time in hours, maybe days, he felt movement. The car surged forward, but the road laughed. The steering wheel twisted under his hands, yanking the car into a violent spin. The world blurred, and when it settled, Kevin wasn't outside anymore. He was back in the church, sitting in the driver's seat. Only the pews were packed with passengers, pale passengers. Every seat filled with hollow-eyed Kevin staring straight ahead. The copy stood at the altar, arms raised. Drive. Kevin's hands obeyed without his command. The car lurched forward, headlights piercing the endless dark. The church vanished behind him, and the highway unfurled again, black and eternal. His body was no longer his own. He was the driver, yes, but also the prisoner. Mile after mile he drove, unable to stop. The passengers never spoke, never moved. They simply stared, their silence heavier than any scream. The radio flickered back to life, static. Then whispers, then voices, dozens of them, hundreds, all echoing Kevin's own. Keep driving, keep driving, keep driving. His tears blurred the road ahead, but his hands stayed locked on the wheel. No matter how hard he fought, the highway commanded him. His reflection in the rearview mirror smiled back, lips moving in perfect time with the voices. That's when Kevin finally understood the curse. There was never just one driver. The forgotten highway had always had a keeper, someone to guide the lost souls it claimed. And when the keeper's mind broke, when his body withered, the road found a replacement. Kevin wasn't a visitor. He was the next guardian. The chanting in his head crescendoed as the asphalt stretched on, infinite and merciless. Behind him, the passengers shifted for the first time, their mouths opening in wide, silent screams. The headlights revealed another car ahead, pulled to the side of the road. Its driver stood beside it, confused, staring at Kevin's approaching beams. Kevin wanted to shout, to warn them, to tell them to turn back, but his lips curved into a smile that wasn't his own. His voice, cold and hollow, spilled from his mouth. Welcome to Exit 0. The engine roared, the road swallowed the horizon, and Kevin drove on, forever. Ending note. Some say if you drive long enough on abandoned highways at night, you'll hear a voice on the radio whispering your own name. If you do, don't follow it, because the next face waiting for you on the forgotten highway might already be yours.